Good, good evening. This is Dave March coming early in on Land of Confusion, the member show for members by members, where we interview members. I'm going to be a little distracted tonight as I tell everyone I kind of messed up. I thought the Canadian election was tomorrow on a Tuesday, like Super Tuesday, but it's tonight. So I'm going to be looking at other things. But right now, I'm going to go to and motion to my co-host Flicker.
How do you do?
And tonight we have a special guest. We've been trying to get this guy on for months now, and we finally have him, Manny from New York.
Thank you. Nice to see you guys.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure.
So just looking at your background here, where did you grow up and what was it kind of like being there?
I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, which is a little different probably than anywhere else in the country. It was an Italian neighborhood, Italian American neighborhood. I'm Italian American. I would say it was out of Brooklyn is probably the more conservative area of New York City. One of the more conservative. Italian Americans tend to be moderate. It depends. You get some extremes, but they tend to be moderate to conservative. Certainly on social issues, they can be very conservative. But you know, it was like a city. I grew up. I had friends. I played ball. I played stuff. I went to school. Oh, by the way, yeah, actually, if you want to know exactly what my neighborhood was like, I said that in my little bio is Saturday Night Fever was filmed in my neighborhood, and the characters are essentially the people I grew up with. That's it. That was my neighborhood. That was me. Not that I was a disco guy, but still.
Yeah.
Like you were younger than John Travolta, or?
Yeah, a little bit younger. Yeah. I think that movie came out in 76, 77. So I would have been about 15-ish.
Yeah. So you had role models then.
Yeah, some people kind of went wild. They get caught up in pop star type of things. Not me though, but there were.
Yeah. So you said that. So you finished off your playing ball and doing that, and then went off to school. Where did you go to school?
College, I went to, I started at Brooklyn College, and then I went to City College of New York for engineering. City College, I guess, made famous by General Colin Powell. He went there. I guess he's our big name. Yeah, but there were others. I can't remember. I haven't been back, so I don't know.
Why did you choose engineering?
Oh, I was a math science student in high school, and so I kind of gravitated to math science, and you also look at employment and stuff. So I've been happy with being employed as an engineer. So I think I made the right decision.
Any comments there, Flicker?
How come your accent is so weak?
It's not a New York. It's not a Brooklyn.
No, I can hear the New York, but okay. I can't. But I just imagined it to be stronger for somebody who was born and bred and lived all his life.
Yeah, but I'm more college educated, and you probably would see from others. I probably lost that a little bit. It depends, Some people tell me I got a pretty strong New York accent, I don't know what a Brooklyn accent is anymore, given that you've got so many ethnic groups in Brooklyn now that it's just different. It's not like the Little Rascals or something, or whoever what was that, the Bowery Boys. Yeah, it's not like that. I mean, that was very strong accents. I think that was picked on purpose, but yeah, it's not quite like that anymore in Brooklyn. Maybe the previous generation had more of that.
Well, I used to summer in the Bronx.
Ah,
I'll tell you, they had an accent, but my family had quite a, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, each borough, I could swear I could tell the different borough accents. But don't forget, I haven't lived in Brooklyn now for 30 years. I live in Staten Island. I live in Staten Island. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone gets out and moves to Staten Island. Is that the plan?
Italian Americans in Brooklyn all move to Staten Island. You go over that bridge. Staten Island, which is Richmond County, is the highest concentration of Italian Americans in the United States.
Oh,
So, and they all came from Brooklyn.
you must have really good cannoli there.
Yeah.
Not really good, just okay.
It's good. Yeah, I prefer Little Italy in Manhattan, but yeah.
Okay.
So you were in the Bronx, Flicker? You from this area?
Well, not really. My mother's from the Bronx, from White Plains and Allerton, and so we used to spend Christmas at her mother's house and summers. So whatever was within 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 blocks of her house, I kind of was aware of. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I see here
It was
says that-
magical then.
Go ahead.
Sorry, it was magical then, actually.
Yeah,
That was in the 70s and the 60s.
yeah. Well, the Bronx became a hellhole at one point, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it was different. It was a better time and place in the 60s before the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
I was remembering you were talking in your bio about how you came to university and became a brain dead liberal. How was that a change for you?
I guess I wasn't that political as a kid, as younger. So you kind of gravitate to the environment that's around you. And the city university system are not just liberal, but they're radicals. I mean, I was probably a more conservative, but given where I was there, it was probably, on the right side of liberal, or around liberal, and that would have been on the right of most people in college that I went to school with.
You mentioned that you thought that when you go into college, if you don't have definitive ideas, you don't think that you'll be able to hold on to them. But then again, you also mentioned that the indoctrination or whatever you're getting from the culture and that kind of goes away, and you're once you get out into the real world. You think that might be applying to a lot of the kids today?
Well, I don't know kids today. I don't really know the younger people anymore. The country has turned. I mean, it's become much more left, I think, overall than 20 years ago. Easily 20 years ago, maybe even more left now, 10 years ago. I don't know. I mean, Bill Clinton had to be a moderate Democrat to win. And then now you've got Obama and Biden that are far liberal. I mean, it's just the whole country is shifted a notch or two over to the left. I think that's one of my points I've brought up several times. I don't think we're a center-right country anymore. I mean, there's always the thing that the country, the U.S. is a center-right country. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that. I think that's an illusion. I think it's really center-left. And the evidence is what issue have we been on have the right gotten through? What I mean, they get into office and maybe they cut taxes 2%, which gets back raised when the other guys get back in. Mm-hmm. But on what issue has it gravitated conservative? I don't see any.
Guns.
Which one?
Guns.
Yes, actually, yeah, that's about the only one.
Yeah,
that's about the only one.
It's a kind of a safe one, but I mean, after the riots, like last year, and there were reports, like I remember conservatives coming on Ricochet and talking about how they could go to the local gun store and couldn't get bullets anymore because they were sold out for the next 6 months.
But is it a majority though? Is it an issue that's going to get a majority? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's coming against it. So no, all these liberals wanting to increase it. No, it's dead. It's pretty much they can fundraise on it a bit, but it's not like going to. It's not a winning issue for them. That maybe like the assault weapons ban in the 90s was.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What besides guns? I'm just thinking. It's a good question you raised. What have the Republicans actually done in the last I don't know, since 15 years?
I can't. I bring that up. Yeah, I don't see it. The country's maybe moved a hair on pro-life. Maybe that one issue is shifted a little bit to the right. Maybe. Everything else, gay marriage, transgender. It's insane. I mean, there isn't an issue that Republicans really can run on, and it almost is like they get disqualified if they run against some of those things.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm hard pressed. I think the First Amendment stuff that's coming now is going to be a definite winner in the future. But I think some of the other social stuff might coming, because what's happening in the United States that I've been observing, a friend of mine was calling up and they're like, I don't like the way things are going. And I'm like, in the United States, they're doing what Canada went through in the 1990s, which were when our political parties and populations realigned. And I think we're seeing that in the United States. It's realigning differently than it happened in Canada, but you're getting a lot of like the Trump voter is the traditional blue collar Democrats that would vote for, left on social policy, like increasing the welfare state and that kind of stuff, but would also be social conservative. And you're seeing that happen now, especially like they're bringing all these South American immigrant groups in, but those guys are the same way. They don't mind voting a little bit on getting a bit more welfare money, but they hardcore on social issues. And that group's coming into the Republican Party, and all the national security guys are fleeing back home to the Democrats.
Right. Do you think Trump pushed it that way, or do you think he followed the trend that was happening?
I think he followed the trend. I think this was happening regardless, and it just needed someone like him. He just kind of lucked in. I don't think it just seemed some of it was he had guys who were telling him that this is where things are going, and he didn't. Yeah. He would go on the Coast to Coast radio and Alex Jones and all these other guys that no Republican would touch, but they have these massive fan bases.
Right.
And,
he galvanized it. I mean, he energized it. Yeah.
But he hadn't changed his message appreciably for 30 years or 20 years.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what his message is. Maybe, but I don't know.
I just remember at the time they would play his visits to Oprah or to the Phil Donahue show or whatever, and he was always against China, and he was always a
that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And that's true. And he was always hiring blacks and women.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he ran on his own personality, I think.
He did.
He was probably him and Michael Jackson are probably the people who had the most brand recognition of any American in the last 50 years. This is a man who maintained his personal brand more than anyone else and understood what that meant. So that when he entered in the field, he ended up having the 20% baseline. And all these people are like, yeah, I know who Trump is. He's going to be and they're fire all those people.
That was a weakness of his. He didn't fire enough. Well,
he
didn't have enough applicants either.
No, he did a lot. He did a lot.
But he didn't have the applicants. He didn't. I think that.
No, my understanding, he had a lot of applicants, but he hired the wrong people who vetted those people. There's a lot of people who were from the Trump train deplorables who were shut out when the administration started because he hired a bunch of he basically put Reince Priebus and a few of his choice people in there, and they sorted out all the guys that Chris Christie spent like 6 months putting together for him. So that is something I feel Trump needs to be more criticized. You said you were going to hire the best people, but you didn't. But Now, you mentioned one of your, speaking of a different president who left under a slight cloud, you said your earliest conservative memory is of a certain event from the 70s.
That's right. I remember as a kid seeing Richard Nixon resign, and boy, my heart was taken for him. I don't know why. Everybody hated him, but here he is on TV, and it's like, to me, I really cared for the guy. I don't know what brought me to that. Maybe in the news. I don't know. Maybe there was more around it that I don't remember. But yeah, I really felt for Richard Nixon when he.
Well, how did your parents feel about him?
My parents weren't political at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So they didn't. It was never really talked about in the house.
Okay. I was just thinking maybe your father's angrily yelling at the Democrats on TV and that would have affected you.
Nah.
And you also you also were growing up watching a certain war on TV.
Oh, the Vietnam War. Yeah. I think that's where, I must have associated Nixon with the Vietnam War and support for it. So that's probably why my heart went out to him when he lost. But yeah, I was patriotic as a kid. Okay, that's probably all it was. But I was patriotic, and we should have won. but it was one battle in the overall Cold War. We won the Cold War.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so sorry, I'm just a little distracted there, but you also double majored in another thing. Why so much interest in that particular area?
I don't know. Once I went to college and I started reading literature, which I had read in high school and didn't care, but all of a sudden it just clicked. Okay, and the artistry of it really captures me. So I really care. I've continued that all along.
So what would be, say, the three most influential writers that affected you at that time, or
at that time, or now, or
overall?
I probably wouldn't support. I wouldn't care as much for them. I mean, Hemingway was important. I mean, I don't think he's that as great a writer as I used to think he was. Oh geez, I can't. I mean, I go back to Shakespeare and Dante and stuff like that. I go more past than that. Yeah.
Did you ever read any Shaw?
Yes, George Bernard. Yeah.
Yep.
Major Barbara actually is a really good player. I really like Major Barbara.
When my father passed away, a lot of his books turned out to be not so valuable as he thought, but I made sure he had two book writers, complete works on his shelf, and that were his, and one was Shaw and the other was Shakespeare. So I made sure to keep those books.
Okay.
And it's interesting, in Canada, we have within driving distance of me, we have every year, there's the Shaw Festival that I've never been to. And there's Stratford, which I have been in. When Stratford's not all Shakespearean, but there's a lot of Shakespearean, and the Shaw only does Shaw plays.
Oh, really? Whereabouts is that?
Niagara on the Lake. So just a little bit north of Niagara Falls.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Actually, I crossed over there when I went to Niagara Falls, but I didn't go deep into Canada.
Flicker, you had something to add?
No, I would just be curious as to what other writers you really like, either now or that have impressed you over the course of your life.
Well, I mean, Shakespeare and Dante are the kings. Some of the Joseph Conrad is a favorite of mine. D.H. Lawrence is a favorite of mine. I don't know if you're familiar with them. James Joyce, somewhat. I think he's overrated, but he is great. But everybody says he's the greatest writer ever, and I say no. But still, he is great. Writers T.S. Eliot in poetry. T.S. Eliot.
Okay. Yeah. what is it to go next? To go down here and be like, you yeah, just curious about that. So but once you got out of college, you got something called a job and a family and a house, and you suddenly realized you're actually a conservative. What was that like?
I don't know how it just slowly, the tide went over the other way. I guess you just, the environment and the things that affect you, and then logic sets in. I mean, liberalism is is ridiculous half the time. I mean, yeah, you could have compassion for people, but there's a point where you're hurting them by giving them stuff, and they're not doing anything. I giving away stuff to me has never been an answer. It can't be. You've got to earn it somehow. Okay. But really, it doesn't even matter. It's everything else they want to. It's not even the poor. They want to spend on stuff that's ridiculous, like climate change. There's so much money that would get sunk into that, and probably is, that really is counterproductive.
Yeah.
But that's what they want to do.
Yeah, especially now we're learning about the problems of pollution coming from windmills and solar panels, because it turns out they only have a 50, not 30-year lifespan.
Right.
They often are only finally paying off when they get to the end of their lifespan, and they're basically toxic sludge.
Right. And electric cars, you still got to generate the same energy somewhere, right?
Yeah.
You're just transferring it over, and then you got stuck with the batteries. Boy, the other day I saw an article where there was one car company, electric car that was catching fire somewhere. Was it a GM? I can't remember which one.
I think maybe that's the Nissan Leaf. Always sounds like the ones that are catching on fire to me. But
yeah, I'll have to look that up. I kind of just glanced at it real quick.
Mhm.
I've been only reading the headlines, but it looks like there's a food shortage in Europe or in England that's related to
what shortage?
energy.
I'm sorry.
A food shortage in
really?
or coming food shortage in England, or because of green energy plans or green energy. I haven't really read up on it.
I haven't seen that.
I would not be surprised.
I would not be surprised.
It's like it
And
just
really,
seems...
the windmills are the worst. Actually, to me, the windmills are the worst. I could understand the solar energy, but the windmills are the worst. I mean, by the time the energy gets dissipated, by the time it gets out from wherever those windmills are all the way back, it just gets dissipated. It's really a net even rather than a net gain.
But the meat that's gained from all the dead birds, you'd think would feed a small nation.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's funny because windmills windmills and waterfalls have always been just the perfect source of energy. I mean, they're hundreds of years old, hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah.
And they can't do that right because they want to digitize it. And dams, they don't even like reservoirs.
No, they don't. Yeah.
I don't get that at all. Why? Nothing they say, none of their plans actually make sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It doesn't have to make sense because it's not ideology. It's a religion now, and the fish want to be free.
And they don't even have to pay for it anymore because they can just print the money.
Yeah.
They're going to be paying for that real. It's already starting. Like Canada had 4% inflation last month.
I've seen the inflation here too. Yeah, it's gone up.
Yeah.
You could see it in the supermarkets.
Yeah, it's going to be Flicker. You're on an island, so everything's imported for you. So we're already paying out the nose.
Right, but our gas comes from our gasoline comes from Singapore, and for the first time ever, I'm paying more than $5 a gallon for premium, and this is the worst it's ever been anywhere that I'm aware of.
Well, it turns
Yeah.
out you can't just shut down the global supply chain and not expect things to not happen. Sorry, I worked logistics for 20 years. It drove me crazy when things started happening. I'm like, you people have no idea what you're doing.
Right.
I see here that you have a bone to pick with certain group of people who are often considered conservatives or on the right. You're not
Oh,
a big fan of
libertarians?
libertarianism.
I'm not. I'm not. And personally, I think that's why the country's really center left, because libertarians on social issues are pretty much left. Yeah, they're tax cutters, okay, and they help us there, but really, the social issues have been a loss going back at least till Reagan. I don't even know when we won any social issues. Is it the libertarians' fault? I don't know.
I don't know if it's the libertarians' fault that
No.
we're losing on social issues, but I do agree that it does sometimes seem to be very nihilistic of them, that they're very oriented in the way they are. It's like the problem I often find with libertarianism is they don't believe in evil.
Right. It's moral relativism. They deny it sometimes, but it's really, that's what it is. The only thing that's moral to them is liberty. That's it. And
Personal liberty.
What's that?
For themselves. Personal liberty for themselves.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I want maximum liberty, but there are some things that are not wise to have liberty on. It's actually becomes an enslavement in some cases.
Yeah.
So you don't think you
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go
You
ahead.
don't think diversity is liberty?
Diversity?
Yeah. You
Well,
don't think that having all the colors of the rainbow, from black to white, let's put it that way,
Well-
and from every country on earth, you don't think that that's
well,
conducive to liberty? I'm being provocative. To liberty.
no, because most of those people aren't libertarians. They would be shocked to be libertarians. No, I think whatever small amount of immigration I would support would be from people who are willing to be part of the melting pot. There is no melting pot anymore. It's really enclaves, and that's disastrous in the long run.
It's weird. In Canada, I think we're the only true multicultural society in the way that people intended, and it was because of the way we did immigration. So we took it some from everywhere, but we took, say, our immigration, say, maybe was a quarter of a million a year. We would take 1,000 people from 250 countries. So 1,000 from each country. And so it would be much more gradual versus somewhere in much of Europe, say Germany, where they say they're multicultural. They moved in 10 million Turks and then didn't try to assimilate them.
Right. That's right. Now that's a better approach.
But in the United States, the whole purpose of one of the things about becoming naturalized is that you have to speak English passably. You have to be able to survive in English, and I don't think that they've enforced that for 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, I don't know, but in New York, I sometimes say that every other person is speaking a foreign language. It's 50%. You walk around the streets and it's probably that might be exaggerated high, but it's in that order. It's in that magnitude.
So why don't you tell us about your love of baseball?
Oh, baseball? Yeah. Now, I'm a lifelong New Yorker, but I can't stand the New York teams. Since I was a little kid, I became a Baltimore Orioles fan, and they were the big team. They were the hot team at the time. So I as a kid, I gravitated. But I've been with them since 1970-ish. So that's 50 years, 50 something, 51 years, and been a lot of hard times in the last 30. I mean, the last 30 has been brutal, brutal. But still, I am.
When did the Dodgers leave town?
The Dodgers left in 56, 57, something like that. 1950s,
Yeah.
mid 50s. Yeah,
that's
before
a
my time.
shame.
I was, yeah.
Well, I do remember that because there's that old show Growing Pains, and they had the episode where he left town, and there people just thought, or the no, I'm thinking of something else. There was some other show like that where Jackie Robinson got traded out of the team, and people are like, "What do we do without Jackie anymore? Oh no!"
Did Jackie Robinson ever play in LA? I don't even know if he did. I don't recall him having an LA uniform.
No,
I
I
don't
don't. He left. I don't recall where he went. I know he was, of course, on the Brooklyn team forever, and he left somewhere else. I know that he started out in freaking Montreal, of all places. There's we used to
As a
have
minor
these.
league team.
Go ahead.
That was a minor league team then at that time.
Yeah. So he was like, yeah, I think it was like AAA team at the time.
Well, you know, there's a lot of talk about getting another team back to Montreal.
Mhm.
I think their stadium that they had was just hard. Okay, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And that really didn't get people excited. But from what I understand, they really want another team back.
Yeah. So they had the Expos when they were in Expo Stadium, and the story, the fabled tales of corruption that went into building the Canadian is 67 Expo is, or whenever that year was, is legendary. So
Right.
basically, at least one quarter of all the contracts during that expo ended up in the town of certain people who come from Sicily, I understand.
Right. But you know, why did they name them the Expos? What a hard. That's a terrible name too. For who could
Well,
get
they named it
attracted to that?
after Canadian Exposition. The Expos. They were at Expo Stadium. It was built for.
Oh, I thought it was expose, like expose yourself. I know.
No,
And they had the most horrible luck. The only time they got pennants is during like strikes.
Right.
They had like they're like the leading team when the
seasons,
1980 90 strike happens,
Yeah.
and then they're gone after winning their pennant. Like, oh, they just had some terrible luck. I was more of a Jays fan. I came of age. I remember going with my father to the stadium because they were playing in like that. It was those 2 years when they won back to back.
Yeah.
And when you look at that, it was looking at that winning team, it was kind of like the dream team. Like all those guys they couldn't afford them after the second win. And all those guys all went on to headline other
Right.
teams, like to be their number one picks.
Did you know they played in Buffalo during the COVID stuff?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's probably close to you.
Yeah, it is pretty close. When the borders open, if I'm flying through the United States, I usually drive down to Buffalo and fly out of there, but it has not been that way. So we are allowed to fly into the States, Canadians. We're not allowed to drive there, but Biden extended the no driving across for another month today.
Okay.
Yeah, but what is it about baseball that enthuses you? Is it, and not say NFL, or is it just you think growing up in New York, you just get into the baseball?
No. Well, the people here are football fans too. I think football's taken over as the national sport. Baseball is elegant. Number one, it's elegant. It's not like there's no showing off and taunting, and at least there's not too much of it. And there's, I don't know. The skill level is also pretty nifty. I mean, to pitch and to hit, that's there's a lot of nuance that you learn over time, and then you see it, and that's, oh, he did that. That's pretty good. While in football, it's all action. I mean, it's just action. And it's people smashing into each other, and you get a thrill out of it. And to me, I don't get a thrill out of that too often.
Well, I know baseball's got like the 200 game series every year, and it's like, oh wow, versus any other sport, maybe except for hockey, and hockey has a shorter season, but just like you're trying to accumulate wins over 200 games versus in football where you're like, it's one game a week.
Right. Yeah, it's a grind. Yep.
Mhm. And it's also very strategic in the sense that you need to know what's going on. What do you think of the designated hitter rule?
I like the designated hitter rule. I mean, the pitcher is just, it he's a 100 hitter. He's a 150 hitter. Well, there's just no point. They say there's more strategy in it. The people that like the pitcher hitting. I don't care about the little bit of strategy that you get, because I'd rather see a professional hitter hitting.
True. How about you, Flicker? What do you think of all the minutia of baseball? Or are you more of a football fan?
I was more of a football fan until the Colts left Baltimore in the middle of the night. That was a long time ago.
It was in the dead of night. They just did it in the dead of night.
Yeah. They climbed into the back of a tractor trailer, and just pulled out of town.
Right.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
And then they named the team the Ravens. We could have had the Baltimore Browns or the Baltimore Bengals, and I think one of them or the other.
Well, the Ravens, I guess. Edgar Allan Poe was from Baltimore. That's the connection to the Ravens. Yeah.
Well, I think that it's a carrion eating loudmouth bird made famous by a drug addict. I don't know.
Are you from Baltimore, Flicker?
Yeah, I was born in Baltimore. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're not a Baltimore Orioles fan then, are you?
Well, I don't even remember baseball anymore. I'm trying to remember the Man of Iron, or the Iron Man, or the
Cal Ripken. Yeah.
Cal Ripken, right? I remember when he got a $9 million contract. That was a big deal. I remember that. Yeah, I like the Orioles.
Okay.
I always liked the Orioles. But I like. There's a line from, I don't remember the line, but from Hill Street Blues, where the really gung ho cop is saying football is the gridiron distillation of military theory, and I just think football is great, because you've got running backs, you've got ends, you've got guys that are just big and strong and block. They're like,
there's a lot of strategy. Yeah, there's a lot of strategy in football.
Yeah, and a lot of differentiation. I think that baseball is. I've been wanting to actually go up from baseball and learn and start watching cricket, but it's a little too active for me. Cricket is.
Yeah, I don't know how.
There's a joke in there someplace.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's usually what is it? There's that thing that you find off in bars, like the rules of cricket, and no one can understand what's going in. It's like when you're in, but you're out, but you're out, but you're in.
I've talked to cricketers, and they start almost coming to blows with the rules, and I never even understand rule 1.
Yeah.
But I guess you have to protect the wicket, and you run, and then you run, and you run, and you run. So
I don't understand it. Do they play it in Canada? Because you're a British Commonwealth.
It's not like that's the game that gets played here at the national level, but there's definitely like lots of what we call New Canadians, immigrants groups that play it. So you'll go down in the summertime usually, and you'll see like people from Jamaica or from Pakistan or India playing it.
Yeah, we have them here too. Yep.
And what is it? A friend of mine was a guy I used to work with, I should say. He was talking about like how he's this big cricketer came into America, and he was doing some exhibition games and in New York or something like that. And the reporter comes up to him and says, "So how do you feel like you're being watched by millions of people in America? How do you feel about that?" It's kind of limiting. I'm used to, like, when I usually play, a continent will listen in, because like. And I mean, like in India and Pakistan, they can tell whether or not there's a war on if their teams are playing against each other.
Yeah, the British really did have they really did develop some games with broad appeal, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least they took over the world and left the games behind when they left.
Well, they say Americans are the only country in the world that usually brings their bodies home. The British tend to bury them where they conquer them.
Mm.
What is it I want to say? So you're also mentioned another facet about yourself that I thought we should bring up is that you feel the most strongest thing in your life is your Catholic faith. Would you care to go into that?
Yeah. I don't know what to say about it, but yeah, I would say that's true. Devoted.
Well, you're involved in a 5-year process to become a lay Dominican.
Yes,
So
I am. That's correct. So a lay is not not a priest or anything. So it's a segment of the Dominican order for non-religious. I won't say secular because it's not secular, but it's non-religious. Right, and
It's
the Dominicans,
non-religious? You mean it's not
non-religious religion?
institutionalized?
Well,
I mean, I would think a lay. I think that's very religious. It's just
no.
not
I mean
institutionalized.
religious being a priest or a nun. That's called religious. A person. Right.
When you finish,
non-religious would be one that's not a priest or nun.
right? When you finish, how will you be applying this? How will you spend your week?
You pray morning and evening.
Okay.
And Dominicans are the study order. They study the order of preachers. You kind of preach what you study. So it kind of falls into my personality in terms of I like to read, and I like to apply that reading to a more general level as to why it's relevant to a divine segment of our life.
Would you be preaching?
Well, probably not. Preaching would be, if I'm on Ricochet, I might defend a religious tenet or something of something or order. I mean I'm not going to go out there and preach to a crowd. That's not what I mean by preaching.
Would you have? I'm sorry, I'm just curious.
Okay.
Would you have meetings in your home?
We have monthly meetings. The chapter has monthly meetings one day, but then we kind of communicate through email and stuff. You kind of each chapter we're supposed to have an apostolate in terms of an issue, and we've been assigned an issue of ending human trafficking, which we have no idea really what to do about it, other than maybe write a letter to a congressman. But
ask Trump. Ask Trump.
Yeah.
I hate to get to circle back like that, but
yeah,
he's the only one that's done that in probably my lifetime.
Yeah.
Dang. So ending human trafficking. Well,
it's a lot bigger than people think. Poor kids first of all, a lot of women get pulled over in the street and get taken, and somehow they get forced into prostitution. It really happens. And then in some of these poor countries, they get lured to become a prostitute, and by the time they're caught up in it, they really can't get out, and they're sent to other parts of the world, and it really happens.
So is your order, is your reach, is it worldwide, or is it national, or is it local, just to where your neighborhood?
Okay, yeah, no, good question. The Dominican order is international. It's the whole Catholic Church across the whole world. Then there are provinces. They're divided into provinces, and the U.S. has 4 provinces: the Eastern, the Southern, the Midwest, and the Western. So there's a section, and then the provinces are divided into regions, and then the regions have chapters. I'll tell you what, I'll send you an email or something as to where you can kind of see some information on it.
Sure, or, yeah, DM me, yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be cool. Or you could write a post.
Oh no.
I could write a post. Okay,
Yeah,
maybe I
mean, you
will.
don't have to, but you know.
Oh, okay. No, it might be interesting to some.
Yeah.
Speaking of children crossing borders, you mentioned in your bio that you and your wife adopted someone from
Yes.
a little out of the way.
Yes, Kazakhstan. Our son was from Kazakhstan. So we spent 2 trips there. Interesting place, former Soviet Union, whatever they call them, provinces or countries. I'm not sure what they call them. But,
Republics usually these days.
Republics, yeah. Right. So the people were actually pretty nice. I kind of liked it. Was once I didn't know how to speak a word of either Russian or Kazakh, because those are the 2 languages. But it was interesting. I enjoyed it.
But how old was your child? What was it, boy or girl?
Let's see. We met him for the first time in May, and he was born in September, so he was about 6 months, no, 8 months or so.
Okay.
And then we fully handed over to us the day after his first birthday in September.
Okay. And
So
how did you find the process? Because we had Stad on, and he was describing his experiences. Just I think he had.
Oh yeah, he's got
Russian children.
that's right. He's got a couple. Yeah. We went with an agency. Somebody recommended Pearl Buck Agency or something, but they don't actually do adoption right now, but they're in Pennsylvania. And actually, now that I think of it, it took us a little bit longer because they were first having us go to Vietnam for an adoption.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And however, we went, and it's like a year-long process before you finally get to it. And a year into this, and the U.S. had stopped adopting from Vietnam for, I don't know, several years. I don't know if they got back up. Apparently, they were making babies to sell. They were caught doing that, right? So I think the U.S. said, no, we're not allowing that any longer. So the adoption agency shifted gears over to Kazakhstan. How they picked Kazakhstan, I don't really know. They asked us, and I said, sure, why not?
Mm-hmm.
He looks like you. Does he?
He does. He does. Actually,
someone wandering around in the background.
Get over here. Hold on a second. He's right here. Here he is. Matthew.
There you
Matthew.
go. Yeah.
There you go.
Hi. How you doing?
I also have glasses too, so.
Yeah, but that's a funny story. When you have to go through a legal process in the country, so you had to go through a judge, and the judge looked at us and said, he looks just like you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's true.
That's amazing.
Okay. So just going through, you also found a national review at one point in your life. When did you get into that?
When?
Yeah.
That was after college, obviously. It's probably just when I started really becoming a conservative. I guess I was either in my late 20s or early 30s or so.
Was Reagan president yet?
Reagan was definitely president, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It might have been started with Bush or maybe the end of Reagan or something like that. But, I devoured those magazines. I just loved it. And then I went looking for, I don't know if Bill Buckley still had Firing Line on TV at that time. I'm not sure. He might have. I remember seeing a number of those too.
There were definitely, he was doing specials at least into the 1990s. I recall, because I've seen one of them with he was dealing was it debating Mondale or something like that. I guess they became friends and they would do these debates together. So it was, Mondale had a bit of his own conservative turn when he retired from being a senator and opened up a bed and breakfast or something like that.
Wow.
And suddenly he's like, holy crap, who passed all these regulations? And he realized it was him.
Yeah. with magazines online now, it's not quite the same. You don't really, maybe there's more of them or something. I don't know. So when you're buying them, you're probably limited to how many you're going to buy. So National Review was it. So you just waited for that. Was it every other week? I think 2 weeks, every 2 weeks or something. I
No,
can't
it's
remember what
a
it
weekly
was.
magazine. I remember
Oh,
that.
was it a
Right
weekly?
until
Okay.
I was getting my copies right up until election day, and then I canceled my subscription because I didn't like the sudden turn it went.
Oh, well, yeah, no. Oh, you were still getting, yeah, at some point I went online and just read the online version.
Yeah.
And then the anti-Trump, I haven't been back really. I haven't. Yeah.
Like
It's a
I
shame.
picked up the American Spectator, and the guy,
Oh,
the
yeah.
editor there is like, you know what? Trump's out. I don't have to be nice to this guy anymore. But the rest of his staff is pro or anti-Trump as they come and go. But it was not like a hard line. He's not like, I'm done with him. I liked a lot of what he did, but I don't like what's happening now. And
Right.
Take
Yeah,
it
I
off.
like American Spectator. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's one of the places I go to.
Yeah, and that's kind of, that's one of the places I go to. And I had, like, after election, in the 2016 election, I read Reason for a long time. One of the reasons I like Reason is not I had to get off the internet from them because they were so garbage, but they do honest to goodness still investigative journalism, where you can't get that anywhere else these days.
Yeah, I remember receiving, subscribing to Reason for a while.
Mhm.
Back in the 90s-ish. I can't remember when. Yeah.
When you did get into National Review, when you went into the grocery store or the magazine store, were they in brown paper wrapper like the Playboys?
No. I had it delivered to. I was a subscriber, so it was delivered in the mail.
I can't remember which Woody Allen movie that's in, but apparently in one of the movies, there's like the brown, like the porno section is like Playboy, National Review.
Really? Oh, I never saw that. That's funny. I've never seen that. That's funny.
Commentary. So just we feel a bit of winding up the interview, unless you have something to add there, Flicker.
I don't know. I've just been, my mind's been wandering. I've been thinking about the relationship you have with your son, and then I went on to thinking about, see, I was paying attention, but then I went on to thinking about how interesting it would be if Trump ran for re-election.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Awesome. Yeah. No. The interest level is high with Trump. I mean, just look at the number of voters. He blew away his number. He blew away the records, but then Biden blew it away too. So
Biden's a better campaigner.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, that's it. That's exactly what happened. He was the better campaigner. He just happens to pull the most luckiest inside straight in his royal flush on that, and all the indications that something fishy is going on, you should just ignore because
I know. Yeah.
Well,
I think he's going to. Sorry, I was just going to say I think he's going to run. I
think he's going to run.
Believe it intellectually, but he said.
Well, did you guys see the stuff that happened on 9/11, the 20th anniversary?
Yeah, he said he can't answer the question because of campaign finance laws.
Yeah.
Well, they don't apply unless you're running.
Right. He's running, but I don't think Biden's going to run. I think he's a one-termer. I think he's not going to. I don't think he's mentally there, and I think it's obvious, and I don't think he's going to.
Well, what's Kamala Harris doing these days?
I don't know, right?
She's not in the news at all.
Well, she's in those magazines where you have to figure out where the guy in the red shirt is.
Oh, right.
It's the worst administration. I've seen some bad ones. I thought the Obama was terrible. I couldn't stand the Obama administration, but this one is got to be even worse.
Yeah. Who was it we were interviewing who was saying that Biden has deliberately selected a bunch of mediocrities to surround him?
I don't remember, but
I think that was one of the panels.
Whoever selected Biden selected the mediocrity.
Yeah. Well, why don't we end on the one of our usual high note questions I can ask you? How did you find Ricochet?
I've been trying to remember. I think I have a vague memory of coming across an article with a list of all the top conservative websites. And it was, and I selected a few, went to look, and Ricochet was one of them, and it looked pretty good. I kind of liked it.
Do you have any favorite people here that you follow?
I don't, but I do. There are some writers that are just really good that you really want. I will give them the benefit of doubt, and with limited time, I will look at their articles, like She, which
Yep.
she pick a better name than She, but She and Susan, of course, and Dr. Bastiat, is that how you pronounce it? He's really good. He really writes some really good articles.
Yeah, that last one he just had the other night, where he's talking about how he met up with the person from the from the Public Health Institute, and she's like, did it ever occur to you that you might want to actually ask the people who are refusing the mandates? No, we can't ask people. What are you, crazy?
That was hilarious. That was hilarious. Have you seen that flicker? It's
I've been watching them. Then he met up with Chris, who was the guy that arranges funding for startup corporations. I forget what that's called, but he was the opposite. And Bastiat says, "Why don't you just have a think tank do the glean the information for you?" And he said, "Well, he said, if we're wrong, we lose our customers." And he said, "Oh, gee, I never thought of that."
Well, it's been great talking to you today, and we'll be
it's a lot of fun.
I'm going to probably rush off to a party somewhere and like commiserate with people about how we're next year it's another training year, but it's looking good. We picked up a couple of seats on the East Coast, and I think that'll be a trend. So Trudeau went in wanting a majority, and he's coming out weaker than he started, which will be good.
I can't wait for our midterm elections. I'm hoping that's a big change in the country, but it does not signal that it's a center right country. All it signals is that they're unhappy with Biden. It's a center left country.
I guess I can say on this note, Canada, everyone talks about how we're a center left country, but it's because we have 3 political parties, but a lot of the provinces have been dropping down to 2 political parties. And suddenly when that happens, the center right wins all the time.
Oh, that's good.
So it's like, maybe something else is going on here, and maybe we are a different country than we think it is, but that's a tale for another day. Well, like I said, it's been a great time having you here. I'll be posting this up tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. It was an honor.
Okay, and bye to all there, and see you in the comments.
Yep, thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.